Biggest question we get is, how do I breed my ball pythons? I mean, how do you breed ball pythons? What does it take? Hey, stick around for this video if you want to find out more information about that, and hopefully we can uncover that.
These brothers my guys, know that they fly, know that they ride or die. I keep boys by my side, CJ Ike, now I gotta roll with ice. These brothers my guys, know that they fly, know that they ride or die. I keep boys by my side, CJ Ike, now I gotta roll with ice.
Hey guys, this is Paul with Spheric Reptiles, and I thank you so much for tuning in to how you can breed your ball pythons, your female ball pythons. The males are really easy, so I'll spend all of this time talking about the females because they are the tricky ones when you're planning to breed ball pythons. And this goes out to anybody that's new to breeding ball pythons or that is maybe interested in learning more breeding ball pythons. So if you're an experienced ball python breeder, you probably don't need this because, I've been palpating my whole life, or I've used ultrasound. Either way, you're going to use one of the two ways to determine, your success with this. And of course, this is Ebony Eyes, our chocolate inchy hypo het desert ghost ball python. She's getting right up there. She just recently went off food. She's around 1,150 grams. And so it's about time. But the more important thing is you look at her head size. Her head size is really small still, and she hasn't made that change over to that female adult head size. And that's what I look at. You'll notice that the scales get a little bit more pronounced and things like that. And that's one of the cues to me that they're ready to breed. And also from the ultrasound, I will see that she would move from the 5 millimeters that she's at to the 10 millimeters. And that's more of how I determine it. But if you don't have an ultrasound, it's okay. You need a female that's about 2 years old, and again, 1,300 to 1,500 grams before you start pairing, right? And that should let you know if they're ready. So, and it might take a couple of months before they actually start getting into it. But during this building phase, what you want to do is keep all of your conditions constant. Keep the temperatures constant, 88 to 90 degrees Fahrenheit, and or 31 to 31 and a half to 32 degrees Celsius, right? During this building phase, it's very important. It's very important to make sure that your females have a healthy body condition, that they're not emaciated or thin, and that they are, really eating food and building up. They've had a really good every 2-week feeding schedule leading up to this so that you can make sure that they're not going to reabsorb. So I think that's the biggest thing as a new breeder that we found out is just make sure that they have fat reserves so that when they do go off of food, that those eggs will continue to develop and not get reabsorbed. Okay, so now that you've identified that your female is of size, of age, of follicle size, right? So she's ready. So now you start your monthly pairings with your male. And the way that you want to do that is you want to typically do that 3 days after they feed, right? You don't want to do it on the same day that they feed because then that might cause stress and regurgitation. I think that's a very important thing that you wait 3 days after you handle any ball python after you feed it, just to make sure that they've kind of sort of really got that digestive process going and that they won't regurgitate. But during this time, you want to continue to pair up that male and that female, and it might take 4 to 8 months. And I'm sorry that that's the way it is, but again, this is female dependent, not male dependent. The female actually determines how long they stay copulated when they're locking because she's holding the hemipenes, and when she lets go, the male lets out, right? So then that's how that works. I don't know if you guys knew that or not, but that's truly how it works. During this time, those follicles will go from 10 millimeters to 45 millimeters. And the kicker is at about 45 millimeters. And this is just something that I've seen and that I've researched. At around 45 millimeters, that female goes through ovulation, right? So you're continuing to pair with this female that has a really crazy feeding response, right? So every time you come near her enclosure, her tub, whatever you have your female in, she's going to almost be coming out of that container, out of that tub to try to eat something. So be careful of your fingers. Use long handled tongs when you're feeding your frozen thawed animals. And that way you won't get mistaken for the rat, right? So I think a nip bite, if I'm right, baby, a nip bite's not as bad as a rat bite, right? So you don't want to get bit like you're a rat, right? But at the same time, those follicles will be developing in your pairing. And the one thing that I know is that around ovulation time, they'll start this cool seeking, um, bull wrapping, water soaking, and then what you'll notice is they'll start to expand. The scales will actually expand, and she will start glowing. Like her colors will be so vibrant because they're so stretched out. You'll be able to see the actual space in between the scales when ovulation occurs. And then, like I said, in about 4 to 8 months, sometimes it might be before, like it might be 3 months, or it could be 9 months. I mean, I don't know, but just continue to pair unless you see your female goes off of food. That's the one thing that I noticed. But during this whole time of cool seeking, they should still be eating. That's the number one thing as a new breeder that I found. So you're pairing, you want to see locks, but even if you don't see them, keep them in there together every month for about 48 to 72 hours. And what you will see is that that female will start to cool seek, and she'll go through ovulation at about 45 millimeters, or give or take 4 to 8 months, right? After that ovulation, she's going to go through an ovulation shed. So, and this is the trickiest part. So how do you identify the ovulation shed from a prelay shed or whatever? Because during this whole growth phase, they will still be shedding. They'll still be doing their normal ball python things, right? They'll be eating, they'll be growing, they'll be shedding. Your female will go from like 1,300 to 1,500 up to like 1,700 to 1,800 or maybe 2,000 grams. It just depends on how old the female is and how big her eggs are, right? So the egg size is really determined from the amount of food that the female eats, the amount of fat reserves that they have, and just the overall condition of the female. But I'm telling you, after that ovulation shed, the prelay shed's coming, right? So traditionally, the prelay shed happens 19 to 25 days later after the ovulation shed. So that's how we know. So there will be a shed, like she's already swollen, and then in a short amount of time, so we're talking a little bit over 2 to 3, well, a little bit over 3 weeks, then like 19 to 25 days, and she'll go through a prelay shed. That's how I know that it's a prelay shed, not just a normal shed, because of course they are shedding. But the one thing that I really need to stress is that after that ovulation shed, you don't have to really pair your male up to the female. I would do it maybe one more time just to make sure. And then the one way you'll see that it is the ovulation shed is that the female will refuse that male and she will be off food. So those are the two kickers, like, because technically with a 45 millimeter follicle, almost an egg in the female, there's no space for her to actually eat the food and digest it. The eggs are blocking everything. And so that's one of the cues to the females that's released, you know, the hormones released by the egg to let the female know that, hey, we're good. We don't need you to eat anything else. We got all the fat that you're going to give us, all the nutrients you're going to give us. So she's going all over the place. So look for the ovulation shed, and then 19 to 25 days later, you'll notice that prelay shed. And that should let you know a really good idea as to if you're going to make it or not. Now, at any point that the female refuses food before then, or you notice that she's just refusing everything, she looks like she's interested in the food, but she's not eating it, then it might be going the other direction where she's reabsorbing. And then at that point, she probably won't need to eat or feed for like 6 months. She'll be on a hunger fast. And I'd hate for that to happen, but I really wanted to put all the information out there so that you would know what signs to look for. She'll start losing weight and things like that. She'll still look a little bigger, but that's on the flip side. But, you know, that's part of it. So now we've talked about the prelay shed as Ebony Eyes is just going crazy. I mean, this is how she likes to do it. She doesn't want you moving that much, but she wants to do all the moving. I mean, that sounds so familiar with, I'm just saying, I ain't say the word, baby, but I'm just saying. So one thing that you're going to notice after the prelay shed, in about 22 to 35 days, you'll get eggs. So you'll be looking for them, and then all of a sudden one day you'll say, let me check. And the female will be sitting on a clutch of eggs, just like in this photo. So you'll see this female sitting on those eggs, and you'll think, oh man, I'm not ready. So the main thing as a new breeder, or if you're interested in breeding, is about 30 days or 30 days before the eggs are actually laid. So right after the ovulation shed or right after the prelay shed, go ahead and make sure that your incubator is set up. So go ahead and make sure that your incubator is running at 88 to 90 degrees Fahrenheit, or 31.5 to 32 degrees Celsius with about 70 to 80% humidity. I found that that takes a lot of the stress out. Go ahead and pre-make up all of your egg boxes without adding in the water, right? So whether you're using vermiculite or any other type of substrate mix, if you're using the water-based method, go ahead and mix or make everything up and just hold off on the water. Put your water bottles inside of the incubator and just let it run. That way it's at a good, stable temperature and humidity, and you can measure that with temperature probes and things like that, or hygrometers. And that should help you out a lot so that when those eggs do come, you'll be ready. And all you have to do is, candle the eggs, remove the female, candle the eggs, and set up your egg box and put it in there. And I think that's when you really start to feel excited, right? You feel really excited. You're spontaneous because it's always at some weird time of the day. It's never at like 2 o'clock in the afternoon. It's always at like, oh, I'm about to go to bed or I'm about to go to work. That's when you'll notice these eggs. And no matter what, you will stop and make it happen, right? You'll put those eggs in that box, and then next thing you know, you'll be talking about that all day. Hey, I had a clutch of eggs, and people look at you like, what? We don't give a damn about it. What clutch of eggs? A clutch of what? Are you a chicken? No, I'm just kidding. But they might say that. But after that, guys, 55 to about 60 days, it could be before or less, depending on what your temperatures are, you'll get babies. And so you'll go from the female that you were growing like this all the way up to a hatchling. So you'll end up with a hatchling, and I know this is Dallas. He's a blackhead, doublehead for clown pod. And this was not produced by us. We bought him, but at the end of the day, that's the goal, right? So I think I covered everything. And I mean, I may have left some things out of this video, but more importantly, you're going to start out through a building phase. You're going to have a growing phase where you're pairing. At 45 millimeters, your snake will go through ovulation. Then about 19 to 25 days later, that snake will have a prelay shed. That lets you know that there was an ovulation and prelay, because normally snakes don't shed within 3 weeks. Man, I'm telling you. And then after that, then you get eggs shortly after that in 22 to 35 days. And then once you put those eggs in the incubator, about 55 to 60 days later, you get babies. So, and I mean, that's part of the joy, I think, as a breeder. Like when you actually get to make the babies that you want, or you're moving towards making the babies that you want, I think that's where all the satisfaction comes in, guys. I mean, it's fun. You end up with friends in this hobby that do the same thing. So you have a lot to talk about, to drink over. And, it's all part of the thing. But if you did like this video, I almost forgot that part, please like and comment. Subscribe to the video as well. Share it with someone, or just save it for your own. Do screenshots or whatever you need so that you can be a successful new breeder as well. I definitely welcome you to this. It's definitely a great joy. And if nothing else, guys, enjoy that time that you spend with your reptiles, like Ebony Eyes, and definitely cherish that time that you have with your families. Thank you.